Thank you very much for the introduction. I do appreciate it, and thank you all for joining today. I want to have a heartfelt thank you to the conference sponsors and to the conference organizers for their time and effort in making this conference a reality, and certainly for inviting me to come to speak at this conference. Also, a particular thank you I think is necessary for Dr. Anil Garg for all of his efforts. If everybody could give an applause to Dr. Anil. I think he's done a great job in setting up what I think is a fantastic conference, so thank you. I appreciate you having us here. As India looks to further develop its petroleum and coal industries, conferences such as this are an important and needed aspect to ensure comprehensive and sustainable development of the industries in this area. I'm going to give a brief overview of the project that Celanese is developing with IOC here in India. But first I wanted to touch on a couple things related to coal gasification. And I know it's after lunch, so I'll try to be as exciting and brief as possible so that some of you don't fall asleep during the presentation. Particular to coal gasification developments, as India looks to further develop gasification, and it's fairly limited today here in India. I think there's only a couple, one, maybe two, large-scale gasification operations. But given the energy balance, the need to diversify energy demand or energy supply sources, coal gasification is going to be a very important aspect of that energy mix in the future. India needs to ensure a very thoughtful development of the industry and needs to develop balance several areas to ensure long-term industry success and energy security for the country. So, as my colleague from GE talked about, there's a number of things that need to be well balanced. The first is economic. So, quite frankly, one of the issues with coal gasification is the economies of scale. Developing coal gasification on too small a scale doesn't provide the economies required to make a long-term sustainable industry. In addition, from an economic point of view, it's important to choose the right technology, as my colleague pointed out. Certain technologies can be used for certain types of coal, and it is absolutely imperative that the decision is well thought out and made early and in advance of startup of the project. It's exceptionally important. Otherwise, you can make significant investments. These gasifications, I'm sure the majority of you are well aware, are billions of dollars of investment. And what you don't, and I've heard many, many horror stories of people choosing the wrong gasification technology and getting significantly reduced efficiencies for their process, or quite simply unable to use the coal that they had initially selected, which leads to very, very poor economics or rework of the entire process, which adds time and such. The second is sustainable. Whether it's water, whether it's CO2 emissions, what have you, it needs to be, the use of clean coal technology is exceptionally important, and the environmental impact needs to be understood and well thought out. There is CO2 emissions in coal gasification technologies. Today there is no significant large-scale capability for coal capture, but as technology develops, those that are investing in coal gasification need to ensure a capability and a well thought out process as CO2 capabilities to sequester or utilize in some way, shape, or form become available, that it's well planned to be able to utilize that CO2 for other options. Local development. So certainly there are international technologies available. As far as I know, there's not significant local technologies for gasification available. Whether it's working with the likes of GE or others that have world-leading technologies, it's important that India develop its own capabilities in coal gasification on the scale of China, to a lesser extent, the United States. And finally, learn from the benefits and quite frankly, the issues that China has been able that China has experienced over the decades. If there's a country that has had very significant success, and in some cases failure, For coal gasification, it's China. And so as India looks to develop, and other countries, but in this case, India specifically, make sure the same mistakes aren't made twice. There's a lot one can learn from what China's done. And I do believe India is going to be on the same trajectory as China has been on the development of coal gasification in this country, as coal becomes a larger and bigger opportunity. And quite frankly, as India is looking to utilize its coal gasification is one of the better opportunities from a CO2 emissions point of view, from other versus power and other things like that, as it looks to diversify its energy usage. So enough of my diatribe on thoughts. I'll give a very brief overview on our project with IOC. For those of you that don't know who Celanese is, we're a company, U.S. company headquartered in the U.S., Dallas, Texas, to be specific. Number 400 on the Fortune 500. We are a technology and materials company. And what does that mean? We play in areas where we have very significant technological advantages, whether it be cost or scale, or we develop materials that provide our customers with very significant advantages in the use of our products. Our core technologies and why coal gasification is important to Celanese plays along the C1 chain, methanol, carbon monoxide. We're the world's largest producer of acetic acid. We also play in other products, formaldehyde, etc., that all play from the methanol chain. Coal gasification provides a significant opportunity for us, certainly natural gas, gasification also. What we need is a source of methanol, CO, hydrogen for the majority of our products. Celanese also takes almost all of our downstream businesses are derivatives in some way, shape, or form of C1 products, particularly their acetic acid chain, which I'll go into in a little bit because that's where our ethanol technology plays. This gives a high-level overview of why Celanese's acetic acid technology provides us such a long-term sustainable advantage. There's two main reasons. This slide shows first the scale, the size. Our acetic acid facilities are over 2 times larger than our nearest competitors. And that's through years and years from 1970 when we first got our first Monsanto license, while BP at the same time got theirs. We've been able to, over that time, more than double the size of our facilities compared to our nearest competitor. In addition, our raw material efficiency is the highest, and energy usage is the highest in the industry, arguably. These two together provide us very long-term sustainable advantages, which is why, looking at ethanol, we put in place some years ago, how can we leverage our acetic acid benefits? We put an R&D program in place, and one of the things that came out was this ethanol process that allows us to take advantage of our very significant economic and size efficiencies, scale efficiencies in the acetic acid molecule and leverage into a very efficient and low-cost ethanol molecule. You can use a number of raw materials for our process. In the case of India, with our project with IOC, we'll be using petcoke. We have a project in Indonesia that will be using Indonesian coal, which is the higher moisture coal. And we have a project also going on in China, which will be using typical standard coal for that process. Via acetic acid, looking at different products, in this case we'll be focusing on ethanol. Our technology has been developed over the years. Really in 2010, we announced the successful commercial development of our technology. We had it verified and validated by Fluor and Worley Parsons as we scaled up very quickly to our first commercial unit, which started up about 20 months ago in Nanjing, China, which is also based on coal gasification, using GE technology actually. In which time we've also put in place a multitude of projects, the one here in India, the one in Indonesia, and the one in China simultaneously, looking at utilizing our fuel ethanol as another source of motor spirits for each respective country. I'll talk a little bit about the fuel ethanol project here in India. So key uses of ethanol. First is potable. Some of you may imbibe, some may not, but maybe after this presentation, or certainly after this meeting, use of ethanol in drinking is one of the major uses of ethanol globally. Industrial alcohol can be used, produced, no, let me take a step back. Potable alcohol rather, is only produced via bioroutes. Generally speaking, people don't want to drink synthetic ethanol or use in other different, via pharmaceuticals or what have you. And so it's only produced via bioroutes. Industrial ethanol is the second opportunity and smaller of the three. Pharmaceuticals, paints, coatings, etc. Antibacterial wipes. Some of the major uses for industrial alcohol. And finally, the largest use of ethanol globally, driven by the United States, Brazil, China, Thailand, and India, is the use of ethanol as a fuel blend. It's a blend of up to 10 to 12% without changing the automotive process, either the cars or the distribution network of gasoline stations, pumps, etc. So it's easy to blend at these kinds of volumes, which make it a natural fit for most countries that have a source of raw materials. As Dr. Malhotra pointed out, one of the key reasons why we're focusing on India as an option, the Indian government has a very strong desire to blend ethanol. It provides significant benefits to the country, both from a bio side, use of molasses as a byproduct in the sugar process in the development and production of ethanol. But ethanol, generally speaking, whether it's bio or synthetic, provides very significant benefits as a blend to gasoline. It's high octane, and it's an oxygenate. And finally, as an oxygenate, it reduces tailpipe emissions, whether it's PM 2.5, whether it's NOx, SOx, etc., things that cause some of the pollution that you see in some of the major cities globally. The United States has been using E10 blends since 2005, when MTBE was not outlawed, but highly discouraged. The government of India today would like to have 10% blending of ethanol, but given the lack of availability of bioethanol, only able to achieve today up to 2% over the last several years. And given the demands for potable alcohol, for sugar as a food versus fuel issue, it's very unlikely that molasses-based ethanol will be able to reach anything even close to 5%, which is one of the reasons why we're focusing one of these projects on India. Our technology provides a sustainable, consistent supply of fuel ethanol, which is quite frankly even better quality than bio because it's synthetic, rightfully so, as one would imagine. This project will look at, as I said, fuel ethanol primarily. We'll also identify industrial, given there are significant opportunities and demand for industrial in India. The project is going to be a 1.1 million ton per annum ethanol plant, synthetic ethanol plant, utilizing 1.8 million tons per annum of PetroCoal out of the Paradeep and Haldia refineries on the East Coast. The location will be in the Paradeep area. We'll also have the potential to produce, as we talked about, as other options for syngas, of sending some of our syngas to the IOC Paradeep refinery for use in the boilers to make electricity and steam. If you think about the benefits for IOC, and I'll get into some more specifics, this is basically taking a byproduct of the refinery process, which today is being sold basically as a coal alternative. Taking that product, that byproduct, gasifying it, and once again turning it back into something that can be blended into IOC's main product, motor spirits, liquid fuels. It provides a very sustainable and significant opportunity for IOC. This is a high-level overview of the process, utilizing PetroCoal in India in production of syngas, utilizing a couple of different technologies. There are a few technologies that are being looked at for this project that can utilize 100% PetroCoal processes. And the manufacture of methanol, which then would go into acetic acid and ultimately ethanol. We've done some significant research on this process. One of the benefits that our technology provides There are a number of things that IOC or anybody looking at coal gasification that has coal, that has petcoke, natural gas, whatever the case may be, that are looking at opportunities. How can we best utilize those technologies or those raw materials? As I said before, we have acetic acid technology that has very significant economies of scale and very significant efficiencies. This work that was done both internally and utilizing third parties doing analysis, the feedback, given the efficiencies our process provides in the from coal gasification or petcoke gasification, it's one of the best uses for the country of the petcoke, best uses for IOC of its petcoke, most efficient use of the petcoke, and the best return from a project point of view. You still obviously have to think about the economics. Just because ethanol is great for the country, if it's not the best use economically, it's obviously not necessarily the best for the country. But in this case, it is. It provides the best payback return for a very large investment process, and also very good return on the capital. As I said before, there's very significant environmental benefits that you can capture from ethanol. This is just a summary of the few. Any project in India, as we think about what are the potential roadblocks for a coal gasification project here in India, there's some things we need to think about, that anybody that's getting into coal gasification, and the government for that matter, as we look to gain assistance and support in the future. Sufficient land, near water, whether it be seawater or fresh water, some combination thereof. These coal gasification units are very land intensive. They are large footprints, and so you need a very significant source of land. And in India, that's not always easy, as some of you may attest to. So it's something you need to be very thoughtful about. As my colleague from GE said, water availability is a very significant requirement for petcoke and coal gasification. You can utilize a large majority of that water with seawater cooling. Cooling towers take about 2/3 of the process, so you can use seawater for a large chunk of it. But you still need to be close to the water. There's only so far you can pump that much seawater. One of the things that have stymied some of the local attempts recently at coal gasification is local availability of coal, Indian coal. And given the variability of potential coal sources, you need to have a long-term sustainable supply identified, so you're not switching coals back and forth. As I said, it's a very significant capital investment. You need to be thoughtful about where the money is going to come from, etc. These issues can all be overcome. Strong government support is required, and certainly in India, in this case, at least in our case, we chose a very strong local partner. Last thing, there's a lot of benefits this project brings. There's a lot of benefits coal gasification in general would bring. Utilizes local resources, whether it's Indian coal or petcoke, in the production of the process. Reduces foreign spending or imports, etc. Value-added processing of a local product. The benefits are innumerable, immeasurable. It's very difficult, though. This is not an easy project. Large capital, large processes. So despite all these benefits, a lot of thought and time need to be put into this. This is an excellent project for the country. Ethanol is an excellent blend stock for the project. And we believe our technology, Celanese TCX technology, provides a new solution to meet India's demands and needs. So I'll stop there. That's it. Thank you.